Hi, America, and welcome to the Home Front. My name is Michelle Posey. I have to tell you, this show is amazing because if you're like me and you've ever scrolled through, I don't know, any streaming platform and you're looking for a show, maybe something that's geared towards women, but that might allow you to express your viewpoint, or you might hear your viewpoint reflected in the panel. You know, you're not going to find that on mainstream fake media, but you are going to find that here. So look no further. You are home. Welcome to the Home Front. Today, I have 5 wonderful panelists, women that are here, and one very special guest. I can't wait till you meet him. Guys, I always shock you at the beginning with just a real quick rapid fire question. So we want the people at home to get to know you. So let's go around and do our first name. And what is a bucket list item, something that you want to do?
I'm Allie, and my bucket list item, I guess, would be to take my kids to see the Grand Canyon.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Cute. I'm Brianna, and my bucket list item would be to go on a hot air balloon ride with my grandma because that's also on her bucket list.
That'd be so much fun. I'm Tanya, and a bucket list for me would be to take my kids internationally to go see their grandparents in Poland.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm Alana, and my bucket list item is just to travel as many countries as I can. There's so much beauty, and I just want to see it all.
Oh, take me with.
Okay.
I'm Tapley. I guess my bucket list would be just to make. I always want to make all my kids sports games.
Oh, multitasking, right?
Just want to be there.
Yeah, that's hard to do. That's a good one. That's a good one. My name's Michelle. Let's see. Bucket list. I really, until recently especially, I really wanted to see Israel.
Yes.
You know, I want to go take one of those tours where you walk the same path that Jesus took.
Yes.
Maybe not today. Maybe once we get Trump back in office and get some peace in the Middle East and some stability. But that would be my bucket list. So it's nice to meet you all. Tapley, you might feel a little outnumbered.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're so happy to have you. It's not often that we get to have a live guest here in the studio with us, and Tapley is especially. It's a special blessing to have him here. I want to introduce him. This is Tapley Holland. Welcome to the Home Front. Tell us a little bit about you and this IV platelet therapy that I know that you're doing.
Well, so what I created about 6 years ago was the software and the testing platform that really solved the fundamental problem. We know that we were created with this ability to heal ourselves, but why have we yet to really tap into the extent of what we know that we can heal ourselves from cells within our own body? There's thousands of literature pieces on this. This is something that's not new. The problem is that there's been a dosing inaccuracy problem for the past 4 or 5 decades within the medical literature, meaning we know that medicines need to be dosed appropriately, right? That's why you give 6 to an adult, 2 to a kid. But we don't think that way when it comes to, say, stem cell medicines or using our own blood, using our own cells from our own body. I created, well, as a disclaimer, I had a dream one night, and in that dream, I was downloaded with the intelligence to create this software. I woke up the next morning. I said, I think I'm supposed to create this software.
Wow.
That's a testimony.
That is.
And I, even though I had a background in stem cells, I don't have any background in software. I had a dream one night, and there's a lot of cool events that led up to that dream, but which is a great story. But I had the dream, and my wife had a very similar dream, and she says, I had something very similar. There wasn't any intelligence downloaded to me. You need to do this. She basically forced me to do it. I started the company, and then, when I started, I said, we need to start with things that people can really understand, like make my knee feel better, make my hair grow. And we need to start with our own blood, because doing things like stem cells is very it's far out there. But people can understand my own blood. So I started with make my knee feel better, make my hair grow. And when you test somebody and when you know the right dose, which is what I created, you can make someone's knee feel better the first time. You can make their hair grow the first time versus these therapies that, I have to come back 3 and 4 and 5 times. And why didn't it work? Why did it work for my buddy and it didn't work for me?
Right.
I solved that problem. What changed everything for me was about 8 months into it. Now, I have 5 kids, and my 5th child was, let's just say that he went to his 2-year checkup, and he had his 2-year shots. Well, the next morning,
So many moms and families go through that.
you know, he screamed through the night. He got up the next morning, and he wasn't even the same kid. Um, and even though I had a background in stem cells, I told my wife, I said, this is not the therapy for him, and there's a number of reasons why. But I was sitting in the airport 8 months later, and I had another, I guess, download, if you will. And I called her and I said, I think I know how we're going to heal him. Mm.
Testimony. Come on, bring it
Oh
on.
my gosh. So many people watching resonate with this because that's our one mission, is to be there for our children.
Well, it's also a testament as to how the medical mafia has failed the American people. They know that this exists, and the fact that they're keeping it from us, or they're giving us the way that it's done is not done properly, and you've figured out how to do it properly. Just shows, one, your testament of being able to listen when God tells you to do something, which is also another reason why we all need to get married, right? Because you need to have your significant other can also help you, follow that path and step into that courage. And
Well, it's one of those things where listen, I'm not the kind of guy that had a very, I didn't go to church growing up. It's not that I didn't believe in God. I just didn't go to church, and I wasn't brought around. She was. So every time there was a moment or instances of despair or struggle to see this through, she's like, let's pray, let's do this. I'm like, whatever. And then there was always a sign for me. Double rainbows over my house, people bringing up to me and saying things that I'm like, there's no way you know that about me. How do you know that? And I started logging all these things, what I call signs, for the past 6 years. And that itself is, I have to look back, because it's almost like, I sometimes I can't believe that I went through all that.
Tapley, you just had one the other day.
Right.
The other day.
I mean, sitting there in the office when we were there at your clinic, the patient had a revelation. She's like, I was meant to basically share this with you. And, I was like, let me get my phone out. Let me log this down in the signs.
wow.
She got a horseshoe in the mail. And so when you flip that horseshoe, it has like, the outline is like a double rainbow. After he just showed her that, she goes, I don't know why I have to show you this, but I was meant to bring it here today to show it to you.
That is amazing.
While she was getting her PRP done.
Well, thank you, Tap, for showing your, vulnerability. I mean, it's so important. It's something that's missing, I think, nowadays. I think people across the nation feel like their men are not allowed to be vulnerable in this way. And I think, especially when you talk about your kids and your family and your wife and what you're seeing, what you're witnessing, it's so important that you're able to share that. So thank you.
Well, I guess I can say thank you for saying that, because it's hard it's hard for anybody today, I think, to stand up in the face of everything we're going through, and just kind of walk with blind faith when there's no guarantee that the sun's going to rise tomorrow, and is this what I'm supposed to do? I think if people would just act on that alone, we would be in a completely different place.
So you've treated your son with this platelet thing that
Yeah,
you've done.
well, the first person, I called my wife, and she says, well, you got to try it on me, because like any autistic mom who's searching for answers with their kid, they're like, I'm the test pilot, right? If anybody's been in that realm, she's like, well, what would my dad say? And I'm like, well, and her dad's a doctor. And I said, I think he would say it would hurt you, because that's what everything that they know about platelets and what they're supposed to do. This is a non-starter. But I said, it's not going to hurt you at all. Actually, it's the opposite. So to the degree they say it's bad for you, this is one of those things that's actually really good for you. We came home. I showed all the evidence in front of her dad, and he's like, okay. We did it to her, and the next morning, it was like she comes out of her bedroom, and she said, I don't even know how to describe this. My brain is operating at a way that I can't even describe.
That's amazing.
And all these physical things happened to her over the next couple weeks. Her tinnitus went away. Her urinary incontinence went away. Her vision improved. All these other things happened to her. The second person we treated was my daughter, and she had a chronic ankle injury. And I told a friend of mine, I said, do the rest with her, uh, IV.
Hmm.
And make a long story short, I hope she's not watching this someday, because she struggled at reading, and she got the injection in July. Well, she started school. I went to go grab something from her book bag to sign a paper. And I was expecting to reach in there and find something that was just, crumpled and disheveled. It was not. It was filed. It was color coded. Everything was hyper organized. This child's, left-handed. She went from struggling at reading to now she reads at a mastery level. She was getting letters sent home to be tested for GT program. And that's when it hit me. And that's when basically I basically shut down everything, kind of an operation wise at my company. I said, I need to figure this out. And then somehow all these patients with these non-treatable conditions, lupus, Parkinson's, and all these different symptom-wise conditions started coming to my father-in-law's office. We treated them, and I started documenting the evidence. And then when I emerged from that about a year and a half later, I said, I've tapped into something.
That's absolutely
That's amazing.
amazing. I think everybody should pray for him. Okay, the pharmaceutical mafia is going to come after him, so let's pray for him.
Stephen, isn't it, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know we're all kind of learning together, but isn't it biblical to treat blood as the lifeline too? It's the lifeline. And it's like you said, it's meant for us to be self-healing. I mean, when we get a cut or a scrape, we think, is it the Neosporin that's helping? That's not a plug for Neosporin, but no, it's your body that's naturally what it does. So okay, I really don't know anything about the process. I know it's true dose PRP is what it's called.
Right.
So walk us through as much as you can what you do if somebody's coming to you to get this treatment. Like, what do they?
So if you were to walk into the office, anybody, let's just put it like, if you were to walk in anybody's office who doesn't have this, what they would do is basically take the same amount of blood from each one of us. Okay, assuming we had the same condition, they would process it in a centrifuge to separate out the components of the blood, and then they would inject it back into, say, our knee, right? So the question I asked was, does it make sense that we take biologically different people,
Right.
we treat them the same way, and should we all have the same outcome success? And the answer is no.
Mm-mm.
What I created was, let us walk in the door. Let me take a little couple drops of your blood to sample it. Let me run it through the software after measuring that platelet count, because in the software is all the intelligence that's on the back end that determines all the healing and non-healing factors, and that's all
Incredible.
built into the one thing that's easy to measure, which is a platelet. And the platelets, why they're important, because they are responsible in the bloodstream for starting our immune system and our repair system to activate. There's nothing that happens in our body unless they initiate it. And that's when all the white blood cells and everything come to heal. But without their involvement, nothing happens.
That's an intelligent
So you,
system we have, huh?
I mean, so you take that and you measure it, and then you determine the right dose for, let's say you came in with chronic fatigue syndrome, you had, brain fog, you have,
All of the
Lupus?
above.
lupus. I'm gonna call it symptoms of Lyme disease.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is that the root cause of that?
Well, I mean, I would say everybody to some degree has some Lyme in them. It's just whether we can fight it off.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I don't want to say diseases and the word cure or the word
Right.
cancer, but let's just say you pick a symptom, you pick a condition. Chances are we've treated it. Chances are the software knows the dose to treat it.
So I'm sorry, with your software, is it like an AI component to your software, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
It is.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So when it came time to the software part of it, I don't know how I can operate Excel. I can do PowerPoint, but I had somebody build the software. When it came time for the intelligence, that's when I said, this is my turn.
Okay.
And it worked the first time.
So I want to know, you had done this on your daughter first, or your wife, then your daughter. So how did this work when it came time to? I assume you treated your son. How did that go?
Well, we didn't. People ask me this all the time, because obviously I tell the story. It was definitely, he was one of the reasons that made me quit. That, it wasn't until he got injured until I said, I need to quit. But my wife wouldn't let me treat him up, for like 2 or 3 years,
Wow.
despite all the kids we were treating with autism, with cerebral palsy, with dyslexia, with pandas, despite all of that. And I don't blame her. It's because Mama Bear, and what if he's
Right.
the one that doesn't have the positive response, all that work she had done. So we just didn't end up treating him until like recently. But I would say he's 90% restored from what he was, and that was awful.
Tanya, you mentioned something when we were back in the green room, and it's specifically maybe with especially children with autism. Sometimes there's the sensory, component to that. How how do you see this working as far as using it with children that with autism? Is there a way that we can? Because I'm terrified of needles, but as an adult, I'll recognize, okay, this is something that's better for me. But that's not everybody's like that. So is there? I don't. What do you do if somebody
That's
comes
why
into
I
your
don't
clinic?
see you at the clinic.
Me
Now I
either.
know.
Oh,
Oh
me
no.
either. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest component to helping the younger children is just having the appropriate people in place to watch, help, support the child because I know my nephew's autistic and getting him in a chair to get blood drawn is really we do a
Yeah.
lot of praying beforehand. So I think that's going to be realistically the only challenge with that is, the support. But, if you're prepared, the mom's prepared, the dad's prepared, everyone kind of does what they need to do. And our staff obviously has to be really able to handle that. I think then we should be okay.
I'm going to ask the question because we're on the home front and we are allowed to talk about anything. So let's talk about vaccine injury. How does this, because I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to have a generation of people who might not be able to get treatment for something like this because it's not being recognized yet. Um, how does this play into that? Do you see this being able to be used for that?
They do this every day, every day. We just had a Zoom call. We do these Zoom calls where for education for patients and the doctors come. We did one about 2 weeks ago where with a lot of the front line, it was some of the front line, and they brought some of their patients on, and then they invited a couple of people that were vaccine injured, and their stories are awful.
Yeah,
and I
they
was
are
there
really
when we treated them. I'm talking about she was 67 years old, played tennis 6 days a week, and all of a sudden she said, in her words, she felt it coursing through her as they left the office.
Wow.
And within minutes, she's like, "Do you feel like I'm talking differently to her?" And then everything just. And when I saw this woman, I think it was 2 years after that, right? Or um, in a walker, up on her toes, a lot of sensory. Her whole body was just in fight or flight, and
Try
shut.
finding
And
somebody a doctor to recognize that that's a vaccine injury.
Right.
It's awful. It's horrid the mental anguish that they go through with no one wants to believe them. And they not only are they dealing with, problems, with their body and they know their body, but then imagine going to 20, 30 doctors
And then
and none
thinking
of
that you're
them.
crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
And they correlate everything to something else. It's awful.
I think that
Or they won't diagnose you because you don't fit a symptom picture in a textbook.
That's
Well,
right.
or it's
That's
long
right.
haul COVID. That's the other one.
If you think about how many, I look at some of the condition names, I'm like, could we not come up with something better to call it than that? And then if you look at this condition and you look at that condition, you're like, well, these look very, very similar. If I take this symptom away, it could easily be this. If I take these two symptoms away, it could be totally that. So it begs the question: Are we really treating the thing, or should we take a step back and kind of look at the whole picture of the
That
body,
part.
right? And
Yeah.
kind of see how do all the different pieces of the body fit as a whole,
Right.
right? Because now we have specialists. We have the guy who works on the brain. We have the guy that works on the bones. but we don't realize that all those parts are like gears that interdependently
Gets back to functional
Yeah.
they
medicine,
work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
root cause and
I was
functional
I was gonna
medicine.
say, yeah, like I like your approach because you're taking my body, you're taking my blood, and you're seeing, okay, like how is this gonna work for me personally versus, okay, this is how it would help Tanya, or like these are symptoms that she was experiencing, but it can manifest differently in people's bodies. And so I think it's incredible that you take a sample of that person's blood and measure out their platelets and then decide how the best course of action is, like, to treat them based on what you know about them personally, not just like what has worked for different people. I think that's incredible.
And in order and that's Tanya can ask how we weren't looking for disease conditions. Every
Right.
patient that walked in, when they're getting tested, it was like, okay, help us walk us through you.
Right.
It's like, I deal with this, I
Personalized.
deal with that, I deal
Right.
with this, I'm dealing with that.
Yeah.
It's like getting a snapshot of what their life is like at that moment,
Right.
because that's not, the body doesn't recognize disease. It recognizes unresolved problems that is causing symptoms, and those symptoms we have to be able to communicate with one another. So we have to give it a label, and that label is a disease. That's how we communicate easily. The body doesn't see it that way. So you really have to understand what's going on in the person right then and there.
Right.
And that's why all my data collection for that early on, I found out real quickly that you cannot measure pain. You can't measure, because
Everyone's pain levels are different.
That's right.
Their
Very much
receptors
so.
are different. And so
That whole
a 5 for me could be
face-
like a 10 for somebody
Little,
else.
like, picture of all the faces
Yeah.
and like the numbers 1 through 10. What's your pain level?
that's right. It's like
Always assume 10 if I'm here. No, I'm
and that's
kidding.
what it was like, they found it insulting because it's like, well, my pain's at 25. Where's that face?
Right.
Right.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I quickly just, I found that out like real quick. I said, I need you to journal everything that you feel, that even however insignificant it is, I need you to write it down.
Yeah.
And let me know what it's like for you right now. And as you start to look at it, you got to see people heal like this as they wrote it down.
That's
That's
incredible.
amazing.
And then it painted a clear picture of how obviously the body chose to selectively break them down over the course of a lifetime.
Oh, wow.
So the body is a circuit. It turns things off
Yeah.
in a priority need. It was reversing it back in the same order.
Well, I think that's kind of the point in what the medical mafia is doing. And when we have 3-letter agencies that are not regulated properly, and they're funded by corporations and nonprofits of people that don't know what they're doing in the field in which they're putting their money in, and then choosing to direct that agency to do things like eugenics, which we all know that's what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is really founded on. I think this approach is very different. I mean, you can have 2 sides of the same coin, and one side will obviously be for destruction, but what you found is when you use your own body to heal itself, that's the opposite side of the coin.
That brings up a good point, because I know, like, so we like to say, we've got people from every generation, and background here at this table, but I look at people like Brianna and Alana, you're still probably wanting to have children,
Yeah.
So sometimes you think of these things that we're doing to our body that would probably alarm you I don't know if you think of that, like when
Yeah.
you're taking a medication or when it comes to the vaccine, what's going to be that side effect that I'm going to have to deal with. So I kind of want to hear, like, from you guys at your age group, how do you feel about hearing something that is a potential game changer because you're putting your own blood back into your body?
Well, you're funny if you think I'm getting the vaccine. You're very funny. But it's kind of like interesting to hear all of this because a lot of big words that I remember like hearing in school, but I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot that did that, and it's just interesting to hear it all again and different things that I didn't know, like pretty much everything that's been talked about, I either forgot or didn't know.
But I know you've taken, and I can say this because I know her, but yeah, Advil, worrying about the side effects, so to not have to put that chemical in your body and think about an alternative. Yeah.
It's definitely relief to know that.
For me personally, I don't like taking medicine. Like, I try everything that I can to avoid it, just because, I mean, honestly, you never know how it's going to affect you. And I was vaccinated up until I was 13. When I was 13, my mom was like, you know what? I'm doing a little bit of research, and I don't think that I really like these vaccines. Like, I don't like what's inside of them. I don't know that this is what I want to be putting inside of your body. And I love that when I was 18, I got to make a decision for myself what I was and was not going to do. And I started seeing like my OB, and she's like, oh, like get Gardasil. And I can't wait till this summer when I turn 27 so they can stop trying to shove that down my throat. Because every appointment, they're like, oh, like you need to get this, you need to get this. And I'm like, there are more bad things that happen to women that get this vaccine than good things. I'm like, I don't want it in my body. Leave me alone. I want to have children one day and like not have any problems with my uterus because you guys want to pump me filled with God knows what.
That which leads to cervical cancer.
Exactly.
I mean, it's quite bizarre.
So I just think it's so interesting. I was a nanny, and I also worked with kids who have autism when I was in college. But when I was a nanny, I nannied for a doctor who, I got to see when her reps would come in, just like how they would try to feed her, like whatever vaccine or thing that they were, pushing. And it's all like relational. It's all about money. It's not about the treatment and the care of that patient. And so I think it's so incredible and refreshing to hear that there's, there is an alternative. There is another option besides, I don't go to the doctor because anytime I go to the doctor, I'm like, you just want to feed me something that I don't actually need. Like, I'll go to you when I absolutely am like on my deathbed and I need treatment, or if I cut myself open, I need stitches. But otherwise, I think it's incredible. And what I love is that, God is totally tied into it with you. I think, isn't it just like our God to have a man like you who is willing to say, okay, Lord, you can give me this download and I am going to just trust you and know that this is going to be a really long journey, but you're going to see me through the whole thing. And I think it's incredible how, God just confirms his word over and over and over. And so I just want to bless you and just say, thank you so much for allowing the Lord to use you, because you're just going to see so many people healed. And like when we look in the Bible, we see Jesus heal people so many different ways. He healed the blind just by speaking it, but also by spitting in some dirt and rubbing it in their eyes. And so the Lord just does things so incredibly, but it takes a faithful man and his wife, his rock, to just, trust in the Lord. And so I think it's amazing. And I love that you have, you've written down, these are all the different signs, because when it is tough, when it is hard, you get to look back and you get to see, I remember in this moment when I felt this way and the Lord saw me through it this way, and like when in the Bible, they walk through the Jordan after the Lord parts the Jordan. He tells each tribe, pick up a stone and then set up those stones on top of each other so that when you need to remember, look, when my God was faithful. I think it's incredible. And so it's no accident that, the Lord sends people in to just confirm for you over and over. Like, you are doing exactly what I have designed and created you to do. Thank you for, listening to me, my son.
We're bringing the church to the home front
we
today.
Oh,
No,
man.
but
Can you feel it?
Here's the thing. There's no separation. God belongs in medicine. God created science. And so it's our job as people to not shy away from these areas, but for you to just step in there. And so, you write it down, and then the people that, you're treating, you're having them write it down. And now they get to say, this is a testimony. It's physical. It's in their face. It's not like, oh, maybe I was crazy and I was feeling this way, and no, maybe I wasn't. No, it's written down. On this day, at this time, this is how I was feeling. I got this treatment, and look what the Lord has done.
Alana, I think so. We're up against a hard break. So Alana, we're gonna come back because we might need it. We might need a few tissues. But before we do, I do want to send a shout out to one of our affiliates. We're gonna see a short message from them. It's Purium. They do premium and pure, so that's how we get the name Purium. They've got a lot of things on their website. If you go to Superfoods Up, superfoodsup.com, you can scroll through and see everything they have. But the idea is it's superfoods, right? Because we're not getting, I know you probably agree with me, or we're not getting what we need sometimes out of our daily lives. We're running through the drive-through or whatever we're putting in the microwave. We're not always getting the nutrition we need. So during the break, while you watch this message, I am going to mix up some greens here. This is their super green medley, and it is 100% vegetarian. It's vegetarian protein. so everybody can benefit from this. We're gonna do a shot of it during the break. We'll be right back with more of the Home Front. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Home Front. I hope you grabbed some tissues because we are literally having a spiritual moment here, which I love because we don't answer to anybody but God, and it's okay to say that here. But we were talking especially about, I know we brought up some of the vaccines that are sometimes pushed on women. I can say my daughter, 11 years old, we go into our local pediatrician. Of course, they're not anymore, but and they wanted that they were pushing the Gardasil. Am I saying that right? Gardasil. And obviously what you do is your choice, but I clearly said, no, that's okay. Well, it helps with the human papillomavirus, and you know, she's 11. Yep. We're straight. And then she said, and you have to watch this because I've heard 2 or 3 other stories similar to this. They want you to step outside of the room so they can talk to your child. Now, I can understand they want to make sure you feel safe. They want to check for any signs of abuse.
How does a child not feel safe with a stranger that they only see once every couple of months? My child will feel way more protected and safer with me in the room talking to a doctor. Like, these doctors are insane.
And I will tell you, we're filming in Florida, so I can speak for our state, thank God. You have a right to be that advocate in the room. And because my daughter is no longer a minor, I can tell you, you have a right to be that advocate in the room at any age. You don't let them move you out of that doctor's office. Anyway.
Yeah, literally. I was like, Mom, I need to go to the doctor. You're coming with me. So schedule off work for this day.
You know, honestly, what's the most disgusting about that whole interaction is that, you can't go into the doctor's office without feeling like they're trying to force something on you. They don't respect what you believe is best for you or for your child. Because, you say no, and they're like, oh, but look at all these benefits. And it's like, I don't care what it is that you tell me this is going to do for me because I don't want it, but it's never enough.
And the gaslighting is terrible. Would you rather have your daughter get cancer?
It's fear mongering. That's literally what it is. It's they try to get you to be scared of what could happen.
You know, one of the things that I run into all the time with people with the chronic disease and the autism is COVID was the best thing for me because, I couldn't give this therapy to normal conventional doctor. This is something that had to be carried by the patient. And it wasn't until COVID changed consumer habits, particularly medical consumer habits, that the biggest thing I can say is it awoken the Holy Spirit intuition. Yeah. Because this is the part of it, because I didn't have any data. I didn't have any research. Everything was, I told you what the research was, but nobody cared. Right. Because the part of them that says, I don't need to read a research article, I intuitively know that makes sense. It's my blood, you're dosing it out. I can heal me. That's the part that people get, and they still get it. Yeah. So, and the point is that, and when I run it with moms, I'm like, listen, I know you're upset that you think that you should have known, but there's no way you could have known. Right. Thank yourself for intuitively not doing the things you did along the way that didn't make them worse. And your intuition is what actually kind of kept this child,
That's literally what happened to us. I was watching what was going on in California. I believe it was 2017, I think, when they tried to take away they actually did succeed. There were bills that were brought up that were aiming to strip away medical exemptions and religious exemptions from vaccines. And I remember seeing my children decline after they were vaccinated. And there was always something inside of me that was like, I don't think we should be doing this, but the doctors say it's okay. And I was always like apprehensive about getting them vaccinated until my daughter and my son had very severe reactions. And I'm like, we cannot continue to do this. And I need someone to tell me or to help me figure out how. And I was watching on Facebook, which is why they want to cancel social media so bad. I was watching on Facebook what was going on. And there were so many doctors that ran pediatric units in hospitals, that ran several pediatric units. And they were explaining what these adverse reactions were, why they were caused, and they were giving solutions like functional medicine and things of that nature, making sure that you either span it out or don't do it at all. And I just was like, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. Absolutely not. And you can't fault yourself. I felt guilty for what had happened, but you can't fault yourself for what you don't know. But when you do learn new information, then change your habits, do something different.
And I think we have to give, I say moms, but really parents, give you permission to feel like you can make the right choice for your child. Because I'm old enough to remember when I would take my children to the pediatrician or into the emergency room, and they would tell me, this has to work its way through. There's nothing, we don't want to give them antibiotics because then they build up a resistance to it. There was like this push, like, mom, let it write itself out, give it 6 or 7 days. And then that just flipped on its head during, like, right around the time of COVID. It was, all of a sudden everybody's got to, quarantine. And I'm thinking, no, that's not what they told me literally for years. And so when we get that gut check as moms or as parents or as grandparents, we have to give ourselves the permission to say, yes, you know what, I'm going to, thank you. We don't have to be rude, right? That's what I did for her. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to just check into this a little bit more. And so we're giving you the permission to do that, right?
I mean, even if you take autism out of this, right? Let's take like Lyme disease or chronic fatigue syndrome, right? You have all these symptoms and these things that you have this, you have that, and you have this. And there comes a point where the patient's like, you're not hearing me. Right? And it's like, they're telling me now that I'm crazy. It's like, you're not crazy. So, long ago, before there was, how did we survive as a species for 2,000 years without any technology?
Exactly. Or medicine.
Or medicine.
Right?
So
exactly.
Doctors were more investigative, like detectives. And so how did they get the clues? The patient was like part of the solution. You have to give them information. So you are part of the equation. So to say that you can walk in and say, I feel like this, there's no, now we're treating with like, well, you fall into this bucket, let me give you this. It's like, no, let me hear out the story of kind of like, let me take a step back and see what's wrong with the big picture. And it might not even be, Lyme disease. It might be something that is something so obscure, but if you don't let them be an investigative detective.
Well, it's difficult to do that when your appointment's only 15, 20 minutes.
And if you get to see the doctor, because sometimes it's the nurse practitioner, sometimes it's, and if you're difficult, my mom just told me, she said she went in, she's, starting to question some things. And she came in and said, I'm not going to get the vaccine anymore. I'm not going to get any more boosters. And they're contemplating not treating her anymore. Mm-hmm. So then that's when you call Tanya.
Yes. Yeah.
But I imagine that happens. You probably get people that come to the clinic that say, I don't have a pediatrician because I won't do this or I won't do that.
Well, they're firing their patients. That's the biggest thing. It's unbelievable that, you could have, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and then you have a new baby, and you've been seeing this pediatrician for years, for your first kid on down, and then your pediatrician looks at you and says, no, you can't come here anymore if you refuse to get the baby vaccinated. And that's a lot of the stories. Yeah. And it's very, that's hard as a parent, that's, what do they do then? Well, yeah, you have to find somebody that's going to take care of your kids and not put that restriction on you that you have to get vaccinated. You have to have those kids vaccinated.
The vaccine charts are crazy now. Like I saw a comparison for what was required for a child, like 50 years ago
yeah, it was only
versus
3
now.
vaccines.
And it's
now
like,
it's like 72 doses.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what? These babies don't need that.
And then you have recordings of like the CDC at the ACIP meetings, and I can't remember the acronym at the moment, but they're like, oh, there's no correlation. You can always put in one arm and then in another leg, and you'll be fine. Like, how does that not? I mean, it's the same body. Just because it's different body parts, you're injecting different body parts, doesn't mean.
You keep seeing me. I'm shifting off. Not that I run into when I do these presentations and I show like this graphic of the platelet, right? And the platelet has all of these things on its surface that are like homing devices, and they have weapons on it. And I show this graphic,
really
and
cool.
I'm like, look at this graphic right here. There's Epstein-Barr, there's the herpes virus, there's HIV, there's cytomegalovirus. I'm like, I can make an argument right now that this should be the new shot schedule, because when we take this out of the body and we do this therapy and it's resetting the body's immune system, you're resetting the intelligence of the immune system. So it's like,
That's incredible.
when you get this therapy, it's like booting your computer down of your body and then turning it back on.
Yeah.
I can show you the blood data. It's gone.
Okay, where do I sign up?
Right?
Well, and I love how you said that, because my generation.
So this intelligence
understands.
was built into us. God
Within
gave
us,
this
yes.
to us.
Yes.
So the way that we dumb it down, so I don't want to get on my, but it's like your immune system. If I was to give all of us if I was a teacher and if I was to give us all an examination, right, a test, and I said, hey, on Friday we're gonna have a test and it's gonna be open book. How many of you would study?
I would, because I'm an
I'd like to
overachiever.
think-
I was always that kid that got like 100 plus.
I
on all
would
my tests and
review.
stuff.
I would review.
Okay,
I would review.
so you'd like, no way, I'm studying.
I'd sleep with the book under my pillow, like to learn through
Ugh.
osmosis.
I'd always be like, oh yeah, I'll study, and then just pull an all-nighter the night before.
You guys aren't helping my analysis.
No, okay, so we
I
would
wouldn't
not
study.
We
I
wouldn't
wouldn't study at all.
Not at all.
I'd
Would
be
you?
like,
Would you study?
no,
Thank
I
you,
gotta
there you
be
go.
open
Most
book.
people would not study, honestly.
Studies.
So and then the teachers gives you the test, and it's not multiple choice, it's not definition, it's 2 questions. That requires comprehension, right?
Oh, that's the best kind of test.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so you're toast.
Yeah, you are.
So my point is that when we're on the shot schedule, that's like essentially giving you verbatim information that your immune system is memorizing. It's not
Wow.
allowing it to get comprehensive knowledge of how the virus or the bacteria is trying to attack us.
Especially when you have more than one in one shot.
Then your immune system is completely
It goes
dumb.
into
All it
shock.
knows how to do is just recite facts.
Wow,
So when
that's
you
incredible.
have
I like your analogy.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a great analogy.
It
But
makes
what do? You take your kid, you roll him in the mud, let the dog lick on him, and you allow your immune system to
Yeah,
acquire that comprehensive
absolutely.
knowledge.
Yeah.
By the time you're 30, you're bulletproof.
Well, because we live in an environment where all of these all of these infections are all around us, right? I mean,
We have more bacterial species in our body than we do cells,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So wild.
They predate
Maybe next
man.
episode.
We're going to take a real quick break, guys. I just want to thank our panel, but also I want to encourage you. We have I guess you'd call him kind of a business partner. He comes by the studio from time to time. I'm talking about Mike Lindell, obviously with his My Pillow. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't sleep without my My Pillow. I actually have the body pillow, so it's kind of like a big koala bear hug. But if you go to mypillow.com, use the promo code UP. That's from Up News, which will also be on Patriot TV. Promo code UP, you'll be able to get some savings. We'll be right back with more of the Home Front. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all my towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Hi, America. Welcome back to the Home Front. My name is Michelle Posey. I'm here with our wonderful panel guests and our special guest, Tapley, Holland. Thank you so much for being here. So we've been talking a lot about the miracle in the blood. I mean, I really think the blood is the lifeline. I mean, we're even taught in Scripture to plead the blood of Jesus over us. Guess what he does? Wow. He works miracles with the blood, right? So I want to kind of build off of that. Tell me some of maybe the stories that you've had from using this procedure. Yeah.
Well, just yesterday at her clinic, there was a man there, probably in his 70s. He went in the hospital. I'm guessing he had COVID. He couldn't breathe. In his words, he hasn't taken a deep breath in several years.
Mm-hmm. My goodness.
He's 86.
I couldn't
He's
imagine.
86.
And he's a champion, man.
He got the treatment. He was kind of speechless. You could feel it working through him. And everybody's like, how you doing? He gets up and he starts, and he couldn't take 2 or 3 steps without being winded. So he gets up and he starts walking. Everybody's, hey, he's like, starts walking. He starts walking around. He just keeps walking. And he says, you gotta be kidding me. And then he just breaks down. And there was, I can breathe. And he's moving, he's doing golf swings.
Oh my goodness.
Because that is the first thing you would do if you got your wind back. I love it. I love it. Oh,
Especially in Florida.
But-
golf swing.
But PTSD, I've seen my share of people that have been raped, and PTSD, emotional trauma. We don't understand how much emotional trauma
It gets trapped in the
overrides
body.
the physiological pain. And I can tell you, we have a name for this. We call it the shift. And it almost happens immediately, and it's almost instantaneous that once you get this, because you can't heal physical pain, Lyme disease, lupus, Parkinson's, whatever, when you're in that emotional fight or flight. And it could be things from your childhood, but once you get this, it's not uncommon where the brain just unloads it right there. Yeah. And you will, and now you're able to, and people, if it was an event, if it was a traumatic thing that you saw, you will relive that in your dreams within the first 72 to 96 hours. You were there. And it's not the emotional attachment to it, it's just processing. And you're finally detoxing that event. It's powerful.
Oh, this is incredible.
It's powerful. But it's your body, you keep saying the life is in the blood, and I can tell you that this is, the life is in the blood. It is. And I wrote a little paper on it, that the blood that was shed for us is the blood that's healing us.
God is so good.
Tissues. Tissues.
And so it's we were created with this ability, and I think that the part that it's blood, it's so simple. It's solving complex things. I think that's why people get it. I think that's the part of us that we can't scientifically articulate. Patients say, I don't have the scientific mind, but they don't need it, because it's like, this is confirming that it's going to help me. I know this is going to heal me. And people walk in the door already knowing that this is what I need to do. Right. And that's, I think, the coolest part about this.
I think we've witnessed a time period in America and in our world really, where we've just impacted through culture, through whatever, a lot of trauma. Like the amount of trauma that I feel coming out of people will share it. They're quick to share because we're all full. Like it's just, whether it's the COVID thing, whether it's been some of the lockdowns, whether it's now Biden economics, whatever it is that you're currently going through, we're all traumatized. And I feel like I got the analogy of unplugging the computer and
Reset.
waiting a minute, because that's how I do everything with the computer.
Right.
So
So
that
turn it
makes
off and
sense.
turn it back on again. Did you unplug it? Plug it back in again.
What might the next generation look like with having this technology now?
Oh my.
That's, I was having this discussion with two guys outside the door that, you know, I don't really tell people a lot about this, but in that dream, but my wife's dream that one night was, her part of it was, it had to do with me helping moms with infertility. And so when I think about
And
that,
that's a huge problem.
and when I think about that now, I'm like, if moms with infertility, they're giving birth to kids that are already behind the 8 ball and having these conditions. So to me, it was about saving the kids. To her, it was about saving the moms. And to me, that's who we save, because that's who's going to save us, period.
Mitochondrial DNA passes down through our mothers to all boys and girls. And so that is so important that if we're able to treat our moms, and our babies that come from our moms are just going to be so much better.
What if we could reset the moms, genetics before they give rise? Because I'm not as healthy as my great-great-grandfather, and if we just keep going on this way,
These are facts.
I worry what, my kids.
Well, we're already the sickest generation, I
Right.
feel like. I mean, America, I think, has the most amount of people on 3 or more. Is it 2 or 3? 2 or 3 of medications,
Right.
two or more medicines, and we take up most of. We actually consume most of the pharmaceuticals in the world here in America.
We vaccinate the most too.
Isn't that shocking? I don't know if you guys knew
I
that,
got one more
but I
thing I
mean,
want to add.
Yes. Go
I
ahead.
was like, should I add?
Yes,
I was like,
you
should I
should.
add this or not? People always like, this is the technology, it's the treatment, we're healing disease, but that's not really what this is. What this is, in my opinion, is that when you see people with chronic disease, Lyme and autism, and moms who are taking care of it, it's the soul is fractured, right? And the one thing that I kept reading through all these journals and thousands of them was the progressional healing of the soul. So people who had, blamed God, or it's like they're now coming back, and and sometimes people would tell me they get these downloads now, and so the part of them that had blamed why, it's that connection's being restored back to Him.
to source.
To the source.
To the source. The
That's-
God who created the universe has
And that's
also
really what
created
this-
you. And this
Well,
is
when we
just,
poison our bodies so
Yeah.
much, we take ourselves
tether that.
further away.
you tether that.
This is why
that
they talk about
connection.
fluoride, and I mean, you could get into
But
all
that's one
kinds
of those
things.
dividing factors that tries to keep you away from the fullness of God. Right.
And
you
the
are
ability-
playing such
yeah.
a big part in that. You and your wife, we have to. First thing I want you to do is let people know, Tapley, where they can find out more about this treatment, where they can possibly figure out where they can get this, and then I'm going to ask you, just filled with the Spirit, to lead us here in the home front in a prayer, if you wouldn't mind. So
All right.
just let people know where they can get
Well, TrudosTherapy.com. There's all the evidence and videos that we on that website, and also on there is the locations tab. You can look at all the clinics around the U.S. that are using, even Tanya's clinic down here in Florida. But TrudosTherapy.com.
Okay, all right. So you.
TRUDOSE therapy.com.
Life is in the blood. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you've been here. Tapley, if you'll leave us in prayer.
Ooh.
We grab hands. This is Mama's table. Go ahead.
I'm not very good at this.
Hey.
Let the Spirit lead.
Lord, thank you for just bringing me here and telling us about your goodness and what you've created, and giving this platform to share it with everybody who can hear it. Help us heal this generation of people who really need it. Help us turn us back to you. Help us get back on that battlefield and fight the fight. Thank you for everything that you've done. And Lord, you know every detail, every brushstroke about our life. You know how you created us. Help us find the wisdom to know the truth, to turn back to you, and to feel connected, because that's how you designed us, to feel connected to other human beings. because that's the closest we can get to being connected with you. Deep, vulnerable connection. Lord, I just thank you for these women at this table, this platform, everything that you're doing to turn the tide. Help us get back on the battlefield of good, the spiritual battlefield of good and evil. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. You heard it here. We're the hands and feet, right?
We are.
We're getting out there into the mission field. Well, that's it for us today here from the Homefront. Thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to learn more, go to thehomefront.tv. We've got some swag, some merchandise there. So we hope you'll visit us next time. And until then, America, stay blessed. Thank you for joining us.